Hey, how you doing today? I am Tequila Coleman. We're going to continue in our How to Prepare Your Hearts to Receive Your Spouse Back. Now, in this video, it's all about how to test the spirit when your spouse returns. So for some of you, you have a fear that when God sends your spouse back, they're going to come back the same way. They're going to come back still messing around with the counterfeit. They're going to come back still, not ready, rejecting you, etc., etc. And I'm here today just to remind you that we serve a good God, okay? And when we begin to pray these scriptures over our spouse, and when we say things such as God created my spouse a clean heart, renew a right spirit within them, that's exactly what God is doing. Okay. You have to believe God on this level in knowing that when God sends your spouse back, God, he's not looking for perfection, but he is requiring for both of us, okay, you and your spouse, to get to a certain level in this love story. So there's going to be some correction that God is going to do, not only in your spouse, but in you, right? God also is going to come in and move both of you into a level of healing, okay? And this is important for you to know because you can't get into the promised land if you are unhealed, right? God is not going to send your spouse back to you only for you to bleed on your spouse. No. So we got to move into a level of healing so that we don't sabotage our own love story. The word of God say what God has joined together, let no man separate. That also means let no unhealed wound separate it, right? So God is going to move us into a level of healing. He's going to heal that mother and father wound that's going on in your prodigal and also in you. Okay. But also, um, he's going to deliver your spouse out of the hands of the enemy. Okay. So that anger, that bitterness, that resentment you used to see manifest on your spouse, when they come back, it's going to be gone. Okay. As long as you are praying these deliverance prayers, it's going to be gone. Okay. Because that's an evil spirit. Right. So just, I wanted to say that because, like I said, some of you have this fear that they're going to come back the same way. No, okay. They're not going to be 100% whole. No, because that would mean I would no longer need God. Okay. God always keep us in a space of needing him, right? Because it's all about being in relationship with the Lord. Okay. And he is our heavenly father, right? So understand and know that when they come back, they're not coming back the same way. And when your spouse come back, every counterfeit will be removed. Okay. If your spouse has come back and they still messing with a counterfeit, that's because you chose them back. That wasn't God sending them back. Okay. God has a standard, and he said, you are his daughter, you are his son, and he's not sending your spouse back knowing they still holding on to this counterfeit. No. Okay. He is requiring for these prodigals to put these counterfeits away. Okay. And if they don't want to put them away, God gonna put them away. Okay. So let's talk about, how do you test the spirit in your spouse? First, I want to start off just by talking about the wrong way to test the spirit, because we've been taught certain things. We've been taught how to do relationships in toxic, unhealthy ways. Okay. And so the wrong way to test your spouse when God sends them back is by, number one, acting uninterested. That's the wrong way to test your spouse, because we've been taught, the one who showed the interest, that's the one who the other person got the bigger hand, the upper hand, right? Because now they see your interest. That's toxic. Okay, it's nothing wrong with showing your spouse you are interested in them. It's nothing wrong with your spouse knowing you still highly esteem them, you still admire them, you still are into them, right? It's nothing wrong with that. Okay, so we don't want to act uninterested. We also don't want to be ignoring our spouse's calls and text messages, trying to act like we're busy, because that's another thing that we've been taught by these relationship coaches. Act like you're busy and don't always be available. How about you just be busy? Instead of acting, how about you actually create a life, right? Okay, so that way I'm not playing a game, And this is what I'm getting at. We got to come away from playing all these mind games, because these mind games is the very thing that's destroying our relationships. Okay. So don't ignore your spouse's call just to try to pull them in to get them more interested in you and to act like you're busy. Just have your own life going. And it's nothing wrong with just picking up the phone and saying, hey, I'm at the office right now. I'll call you, when I'm off or when I'm leaving, right? Keep it short and simple. another way how another wrong way to test the spirit is by doing things to try to trigger them to see, cause let me say it this way. We have limited beliefs in our mind, right? And when we leave those limited beliefs in our mind, right, we have a belief that we're going to always be rejected. We have a belief that when our spouse come back, they're going to reject us. And when we don't deal with that belief, when we believe that they're going to come back the same way, rejecting us, still, overlooking us, when your spouse comes back, because this belief is in your mind, you unconsciously, you're going to do things to trigger your spouse. You're going to put yourself in certain situations. You're going to act a certain way that causes your spouse to reject you. And once the rejection happens, your mind tells you, see, I knew it. I knew they was going to do this, right? So you want to be mindful of these the limited beliefs you have going on in your mind, so that you are not the one that's showing up in ways that causes people to reject you, right? Just so it can prove your own limited belief to be true. Okay. So we got to be aware, what are my limited beliefs? What are my fears and insecurities? Okay, I got to deal with that now before my spouse come back, so that I'm not showing up in ways that causes my spouse to pull away from me. Because sometimes, let's just be honest, sometimes some of y'all could be very needy. Some of y'all can behave in ways that cause people to not want to be around you. It is not because they rejected you, it's because of how you showing up. Let's just be honest here. So we got to take a look at ourselves, okay? And make sure we are showing up as our best self, okay? But like I was saying, don't try not to do things that would trigger your spouse in negative, to respond to you in a negative sense, okay? Because that's the wrong way to test the spirit. So, and another one, I got one more. Another wrong way to test the spirit is by holding back your feelings. Listen, if you're not ready to be vulnerable, if still having, problems with expressing how you feel, to your spouse, if you're dealing with certain things, you're not ready for marriage, okay? Because marriage require two grown mature adults. Marriage is going to require vulnerability. Marriage is going to require communication. It's going to require for you to be emotionally available to your spouse. And so if I'm not ready to be vulnerable, I'm not ready to let my spouse all the way in, then you're not ready for marriage. And again, we have to know these things about ourselves, so that we're not blaming our spouse, right? We're not, trying to start something when it's not the time to start it, right? We got to know. We got to, we talk a lot about prodigals, but we also got to take a look at ourselves and see how we are showing up as well in this process, okay? So again, holding back your feelings, that's the wrong way to test your spouse, okay? Because sometimes we can get in the mindset, when I'm gonna hold back my feelings just to see how he feel about me, or to see how she feel about me. Listen, go for it. God said that's your spouse. He or she know you are their spouse. Go for it. Tell your spouse how you feel. Go ahead and have that open communication with your spouse. If they're not on board, then okay, keep it moving. That's the attitude you got to have, right? Everything is a rejection. If they're not on board, okay, he or she isn't ready for me. This doesn't mean I'm less than. I'm gonna keep it moving. Like, you gotta have that attitude, okay? It doesn't stop anything going on over here, because I'm over here doing the work. I'm over here growing. I'm over here healing. I'm over here getting better. So if my spouse isn't ready for me, which they will be ready when God send them back, but I'm just saying, if your spouse, when they come back, they not ready for you, okay, cool. That don't have to hurt me. I don't have to feel some type of way, because I understand what level I'm on. I understand where I'm at as a person, right? Remember, I said in the previous video, rejection has to do with the person doing the rejecting, not me. Okay, so let's talk about, and this is very simple, how to test the spirit when your spouse come back. It's very simple. I do this all the time. And it's just who I am. You know who I am as a person. Test every spirit, okay? And so let me first start with some scriptures. First John chapter 4, verse 1. It say, beloved, believe not every spirit, but try the spirits whether they are of God, because many false prophets are going out into the world. So the Bible is telling us to test every spirit. You can't just take people at face value. You can't just take what people say and allow them to get you all encouraged. Or if someone trying to be vulnerable, acting like they being vulnerable, and you like, oh, okay. No, you got to test that spirit. And the way how we test the spirit is not by listening to what's coming out of their mouth. You want to take a look at their action, okay? Matthew chapter 7, verse 16 say, you would know them by their fruit. Action. A person's action reveals the fruit in them. Write that in the comment section. A person's action reveals the fruit in them, okay? You are either producing good fruit or bad fruit. Now, let me say this before I get into, it's only three ways how to test the spirit when your spouse come back. It's more ways, but I just got three simple ways. Let me say this first. Now, this is for my God ordained future wives. When God sends your God ordained future husband back, and if you see that spirit of lust manifest, where your spouse is trying to, fornicate with you, understand something. I don't think that's a red flag, okay? And here's why I say that. Because our men have been taught wrong. They've been taught ever since puberty how to feed their lustful nature. They've been taught you masturbate to release yourself, at an early age. Nowhere in the Bible does that say that. The Bible tells us to practice self-control and self-discipline, okay? And so it's not always a red flag just because your spouse is coming back, wanting to have sex with you. It's a red flag when you tell your spouse, I'm saving myself for marriage, and then they say, well, you know what, I'm out, I'm done. I can't see myself, waiting that long. Yeah, then you let that person go, right? But if they just, let me just be clear, if they showing that they are attracted to you, but they also respecting where you're at, and they respecting the fact that you want to wait for marriage, okay, that's not a red flag, okay? This is just something that they have to continue to grow and mature in, because again, they have been taught to feed, masturbate, okay, ever since puberty. So if think about it, from 16 years old or 14, whatever age it is, all the way up until your spouse's age. We got 30-year-old, we got 40, 50, 60, 70 going on up. Right? So they're going to have to learn, how to practice self-control and self-discipline. Okay. I just wanted to say that. But 3 ways on how to test the spirit when your spouse come back. Number 1, it's going to require for you to be patient. You're going to need a lot of patience. Okay. You can't test the spirit in 1 week. You can't test the spirit in a month. It's going to require for you to be patient. It's going to require for you to go through the seasons with your spouse. It's going to require for you to see your spouse in certain situations so that you see how they can handle themselves, or you see what spirits manifest when they in certain situations, okay? When your spouse is around certain people, I need to see, are you the same way, or do you change up when you get around this person? I need to see these things, and it's going to require patience on my part, okay? That's number 1. Number 2, the second way how we test the spirit, you got to ask questions. You got to get your spouse to talking. Now, like I said, I'm not just listening to what you say to me. I'm also looking at your action. I'm looking to see, are your words lining up with your action? Do you walk your talk, right? Because if I see something opposite, that's telling me the fruit. It's showing me the fruit in you. It's showing me deception. It's showing me selfishness, right? So I can't just focus in on what my spouse is telling me. I have to look at what you're showing me. Because when I'm looking at your action, I can identify your challenges. I can identify your weaknesses. I can identify your stronghold just by looking at your action. Okay. So I'm not going to focus in on what he said or what he promised me. I'm looking at your action. Okay. And the third way, now this is how I test everyone. It's just natural for me because I'm a prophet. Now, here's the thing, you want to take notice of when you're around your spouse, there's a certain part of you that your spouse love. They like, y'all just connect and y'all flow together when y'all connect on this level, right? But then there's another part of you, and I'm gonna just speak for myself, right? I'm gonna say it this way. So everyone loved the tequila who encouraged them, who lift them up, who inspire them, who push them to be great, who push them in their purpose. They love that. Y'all love it when I give you the truth. You love how blunt I am and direct I am. However, there's another part to me, the prophet. When that prophet shows up, it shows up very direct, firm, assertive. It gives you boundaries. It holds you accountable. That's the part that causes many people, when they come around me, to manifest. They manifest jealousy and envy. They manifest, deception. They manifest, pride, selfishness when that prophet in me shows up, right? So you got to be aware of this about yourself. What parts of me does my spouse love? We just, when we come together, we flow, we get along, we just flowing and connecting on this level. But when I hold my spouse accountable, how does they respond? When I correct my spouse, how does they respond? When I give my spouse a boundary, how does they respond? Right? We got to begin to take a look at these things, because I always say sometimes, your spirit is not getting along with their spirit, right? We got two different spirits, clashing together. And this is why, you will see the pushback. This is why, things seem off between you and your spouse. Okay. So you want to just take notice of, okay, like don't focus in on when your spouse come back. Oh, okay. So we getting along right here, but over here, I'm feeling the tension. Okay. Pay attention to that. Then when you pay attention to it, now I got to discern, why is tension here? Okay. If I'm holding him accountable, or if I just enforce a boundary, is am I feeling the resistant because this person they would never taught boundaries, and as a result of me giving them my boundaries, now they are being resistant. They probably see me as being mean or controlling. I got to discern, why is this tension showing up? Why we bumping heads now? Is it really a spirit, or is it because this individual was never held accountable before? Or is it because they never was taught boundaries? And now that I'm doing it, I'm the first, they having temper tantrums, right? you know so we gotta, we need some discernment to kick in here. That's what I'm getting at here. Okay, so those are my 3 ways on how to test the spirit when your spouse come back. Okay, make sure your spirit is right as well when your spouse come back. Okay, like I said, we talk a lot about these prodigals, but we also want to make sure that we are showing up as our best self. We also want to make sure that we are healing, we are growing, we are manifesting the fruit of the spirit. Okay, so that is it. I am Tequila Coleman. I'll talk to you all real soon. Take care.